Marhaba. Right now we're going to talk about derived Arabic verb form 9, or what we would call in Arabic wazn if'alla. As you can see over here on this chart, in the past tense, just as with verb forms 7, 8, and 10, we add an alif at the beginning of that derived pattern before the root letters, so like that, with a kasra underneath, and a sukoon on the first root letter, followed by a fatha on the second root letter, and then a shadda on the third root letter, if'alla. Form 9 is the only derived verb form that adds a shadda to the final root letter, so that's an easy way to pick it out of the crowd of other verbs if there are multiple options that you might be considering. In the present tense, we add vowels like so. Yaf, il, with a kasra here. And in the masdar form, we actually separate those last two letters, since the shadda represents two letters, two twins of the letter that it's on top of. So the masdar would actually look like this. Alif with a kasra at the beginning. And then, just like with the other derived forms later, 7, 8, and 10, we add an alif between the final letters, so the final product looks like this. If, ilal. Form 9 is unique in Arabic in that it's the wazn of what we call in Arabic al-alwan wal-ahat, which we might translate as colors and defects. So, verbs that have to do with colors, things being or becoming a certain color, or with adjectival characteristics, often ones having to do with the human body. So, if you've studied colors already, you know that some of them follow a certain pattern, the af'al pattern, like if we're talking about red, ahmar, or blue, azraq, or white, abyad, or yellow, asfar. Those are all our masculine singular adjectives for color. So if we wanted to talk about something being or becoming the color white, if we left something out in the sun and it bleached white, we could take abyad, this color adjective, and put it in the form 9 verb pattern to create a verb meaning to be or become white. So in the past tense, conjugated for singular masculine, we would say ib yadda. Or if we wanted to talk about something becoming red, if my face turned red, say, from anger or embarrassment, or if I got a sunburn, I could say my face got red. I could take ahmar and take that root ha, mim, ra, and turn it into ihmarra. Ihmarra wajhi. My face got red, say. Or in Arabic, asfar, yellow, is the color that we would use to talk about being kind of pale and sickly, looking kind of pallid. So we could say, oh, so-and-so isn't looking so good. Asfarra wajhu. His face got all yellow. There's another category of verbs, as I said, that fit into this if'alla pattern, not just colors, but things that have to do with adjectives describing personal characteristics. Those can either be physical things like being or becoming bald, or having tan or olive skin, or also things that are a little less physical and more having to do with actions, like acting foolish, for example. So if we wanted to talk about a human being becoming tan, we also have an adjective for that that's just for humans. Asmar, which we would use to describe someone tan or olive skin. But if you went on vacation to Egypt for a couple of weeks and you came back and you were a slightly darker shade, we could say, huwa ismarra. Or hiya ismarrat, she got all tan. Another one, ahet is a slightly politically incorrect way to put it, but it does mean defect. So if we want to talk about unfortunate things happening physically, we can also use wazn if'alla to describe that. For example, there is an adjective a'waj, which means bent or twisted, like we could talk about a limb or someone's spine being that way. So if we wanted to talk about a sports injury, say, someone getting a bent neck and needing to go to the chiropractor, we could make that a verb as well. I'wajja, it got twisted. And the masdar, there again, if we wanted to create a masdar, we would need to separate out that gene to match this if'ilal pattern. So we wind up with some masadir, some verbal nouns that look a little bit strange. So i'wajja, past tense, it got bent. But if we wanted to talk about getting bent or twisted, this idea, we would wind up with a slightly funny looking i'wijaj. So if we wanted to talk about having a bent spine, we could say i'wijaj al-raqaba, or I guess that's neck, having a bent neck and needing to go to a doctor to get that straightened out. Form 9 is a relatively rare pattern, but we do see it in cases like this, especially in formal or classical contexts.